So if primitivism were paradise, and primitive people were nonviolent and had what they have in this movie, the basically equality between the sexes, some of this would start to make sense. I mean, basically, you would have this evil, aggressive, greedy outsiders coming and taking away what is rightfully theirs. And listen, there's just no question that in situations where new people come into a land and there are natives there, the natives usually get the short end of the stick, and it usually doesn't happen in the nicest possible way. I mean, Thomas Jefferson wanted the Indians to be brought into American society. They ended up being virtually wiped out and left on reservations, which is even worse, I think. But the whole thing is, the Na'vi are a complete fantasy. Rousseau talked about the noble savage. They are a complete fantasy. Why? Because they have light that lights up the night. They have little plants that they can use to light up the night. They can fly on dragons. They have equality with men and women have equality. You can have all those things, but you need one little thing. You need oil. You need oil, and then you can invent electric lights, and then you can have planes, and then you can have the kind of technology that is required before women stop being simply vessels of the tribe, right? Because when you are in a savage situation, women are birthing the new generation. They have to be protected. They have to be owned. They have to be basically chattel. And that's what happens. Most primitive societies are more violent than civilized societies. I mean, if you think about it, that's true. In Dances with Wolves, they find the wonderful Lakota tribe. It's like those guys were killing everybody. Those tribes were at war, and all that happened was a big, powerful tribe. The Europeans came and took away their land, but they were taking away each other's land before. So all I'm saying, I'm not saying, oh yes, let's go and kill all the primitive people. But when Avatar came out, the idea that we were taking the oil from the Iraqis, when did that happen? That never happened. The idea that the Iraqis were this wonderful little primitive society of equality, it was a torture chamber. Iraq was a torture chamber when we invaded. They had rape rooms in Iraq, a phrase that still sticks in my throat when I try to say it, rape rooms, where Saddam Hussein and his kids could bring women for their pleasure. I mean, these things are just not that clear. And this is a wonderful piece of propaganda, a tremendously entertaining movie, only because the primitives basically are given technology through magic means. They are given technology through magic means. The left were building websites where they got to pretend to live among the Na'vi because it was so appealing. It was so appealing because they had electric lights, except they were magic. They had flight, except it was dragons. And women were not treated like garbage, which they are in many, many primitive societies. They are treated with violence in many primitive societies. Why? Because men are stronger. There's no technology to make that balance out. I was once talking to a high-level woman in a TV station, and we were talking about stories, and I was saying how much I like Game of Thrones. And she said, in Game of Thrones, I've told this story before, but it's worth retelling. She said, in Game of Thrones, there's too much rape. I said, well, it takes place in a non-technological society. Women have no defense. If you don't have guns, you have no defense, And in primitive societies, women are much more in danger. She said, well, they shouldn't have put that in. And she said, it's their story. They can put in anything they want. And I said, yes. And then it would be dishonest. And it's not a great story anymore. It may still be a good story, but it's no longer a great story because it's not honest. They believe that they can just write the world so that they can WRITE, the world, so that their values make sense. And that is how they sell them to you. But in real life, does anybody really think that this continent should be run by people who never invented the wheel? Does anybody think that this world would be a better place for humanity, for women, for men, for everybody, if this continent were still completely run by people who didn't invent the wheel? They didn't invent the wheel, okay? You don't get very far without doing that. All right, that's the show. Tomorrow is the mailbag. Tomorrow is the mailbag. Subscribe, get your questions in. The answers, guaranteed correct, and will change your life, possibly for the better. I'm Andrew Klavan. This is The Andrew Klavan Show. We'll see you again tomorrow.